Guys, welcome to the stream. Welcome to the close. Obviously, we've got about 5 minutes left till this market does close off, and it looks like it's going a little bit red here. So the question is it a cause for concern? Let's take a look at a couple of key levels that we'll be watching here on the S&P 500 and, of course, Nasdaq, the two most important. We'll have a look at Tesla and flick over to that because it got underneath 1,000. And, you know, I feel like that was a very key level. So we'll check that out in just a second. So here we have the previous couple of days, and I'll just need to reset my pen tool. 1 second. That should fix it up. So we've got about this 46.66 area. It's like a lot of sixes, kind of like devilish, yeah? So we've seen it hold once. We've seen it hold the second time, and hopefully we can see it hold a third time as well today. But at this stage, it hasn't quite done it. Just give me 1 second, guys. Just got to quickly do this. All right, there we go. It should be good. So we've got this support, the support, and this support. Now, today, what happened? We went to the resistance. We've found some resistance. We've sold off that zone. Is that unlikely to happen? No. Nasdaq is actually a little bit different. So let's just have a look at the Nasdaq close because this is actually a new low. It kind of points towards potential further weakness. So look at the daily. So daily getting underneath the daily 20. Now we have the FOMC conference this week. We know that that's going to be the volatility. I'm not really too concerned with the overall market conditions at this stage. I mean, obviously, the pull up, the pull down, we're still looking towards that overall bullishness. I don't think the bears are winning just yet, but the resistances are holding. So again, Nasdaq resistance has held. S&P 500 resistance has held. The actual close is going to be important. So we're down 0.94 at this stage. If we go to the 2 hour, you'll notice it's right around that key level. And we've been trapped in that now for a couple of days of trade. So any of these types of things are fine. And even with fib retracements, if you're looking towards that longer term bullish action, you're obviously looking for the market to possibly, get into here or get into the 50 to fill that gap. This is all okay still for all the bulls. And there'll be buyers, you would think, at this level and this level on the S&P 500. There also should be buyers around this zone to a degree, okay? But if we close underneath here today, that's where the bad side is. So we've got 2 minutes to find out whether that does happen. Let's move over to Tesla because this is probably a bit more interesting. Tesla's daily. Now, check this out. So we look at the Tesla daily. It opened underneath. Now, we always talk about follow through. So I hope people really are paying attention to that. It's a super important concept in all of trading where if you see a bullish hammer, they are not good enough by themselves. Even with key support, you see a bullish hammer, if you do not get the follow through in the next day of market, as in it makes a new high, it is not a good trade, okay? Now, underneath 1,000 is a huge deal. Obviously, it's going to close around this 965, has bought off the previous. I'd be going towards the bear side right now in terms of this moving back down to the 900. That's what you'd have to think is most likely. And there's a couple of reasons why. We look to the left-hand side. You'll see it over here. So here's the left-hand side. Here is, of course, the resistance, closure below, and the rest was history. It actually caused a big problem in Tesla. Now, that's not going to necessarily push around the whole market, but that is one of the things that we look at. So what do you guys think? Do you reckon Tesla could go potentially to the 900? We're now in the post. Looks like we closed around the same time or point for the US 500, so still around that support area. Let's have a look at IWM because this cracked underneath. Another reason why we wait for the confirmation turnaround. We didn't get one, and therefore, what can you do? You can't do anything if you don't get a turnaround. I mean, the story was obviously pretty good. We hit the resistance. We come back down. We see the turnaround. That's all we need. Ticks the boxes. We take the positions in terms of our technical trades. At this point, it's gone further down. So now it looks like we test that 213, 214 level, and that's going to be maybe where the support is. I'm still not overly concerned about it, but it is back down in this zone. So you've got to be aware of waiting for the even though you might have analyzed the best area that you can think of, it's that final step that really differentiates someone from being one of the 95% of traders and someone from being the 5% of traders. It's boring. It's Terrible. It's something you don't want to do, but it is something that is the reality of trading and investing. Mountain Fortress says, no, it's finding solid support. You're talking about the Tesla. You don't think it'll find 900? Terry M says down to 900. Trio says below 900. Finken says 950, 900. Yep, certainly there. And I've yet to see quad witching amount to anything, possible high volatility, but I haven't seen it recently. You always do see higher volatility in quad witching. Usually the day before gets quite a lot of volatility. The Monday, not necessarily, though. Jersey Gull says, I'm in the red today. Yeah, most people will probably be down in their portfolios today. I mean, look at this. Other than the biotech sector, and especially these CRISPR style stocks, it was down 3.24% on Square. I mean, look at this. This is almost a new low. So you can see why that Russell is getting pummeled as well, because a lot of these companies are coming back down to big key supports or lows. Apple down 2.07. Okay, well, that doesn't really surprise me. It had a big run on it. Amazon 1.54, still stuffing around. Obviously, we see where the supports are at this stage for this. It's getting down there. 200 daily needs to hold that zone. Hopefully it can. Google, yeah, it's just turning around at this stage. Microsoft's very similar, 339, just chilling at the top. But then we scroll down some of these hyper stocks. Some of those are just still not doing well. I mean, everyone was on the Roku train last week, and it's filled the gap completely by now. So all of that initial sugar rush on Roku has been taken out. And this is why I'm not believing 2022 is the best time to jump in and go crazy on these rushes anymore. So we saw 2021. I would say 2021 and 2020 were the years of when a big announcement comes out, the market runs hard, okay? And it runs for days and days and days. And I feel like a lot of people have been conditioned for that. That I do not believe is going to happen in 2022. But I want to ask the community, what do you guys think? For people that have been veterans of trading for a long time, been in the stock markets, in the markets, do you think 2022 is going to be one of those years where you get a ramp, where you get this continuation of a bull day that goes up 18%, another bull day that goes up 10%? On large stocks as well. Do you think that's going to happen in 2022 so much? I'm interested. Given the current market, what sector is the best to trade in, says Scott Morgan? Well, I mean, in terms of sectors, it really depends what your trade style is. So if you're talking about scalping, I mean, you don't really need to worry about any particular sector. You're just looking for obviously small movements on the small timeframes. I think you're probably talking more about swing and investment style. So let's just bring up a chart here to show which actual ones were moving today and how much they were moving by. So this is every single one of the sectors and industries. We'll get rid of the industries just quickly so we can see the sectors. So I think when you look at the last 3 months, you'll notice that there are some that have actually been relatively sideways. So say like the healthcare sector, that's starting to come into its own a little bit here. You can see it's for 3 months, it started to really boost up and do okay. And I think the healthcare sector has provided some okay trades. I also think that XLB has been relatively okay as well. It's pulled back down, done its right thing. But yeah, all of these are okay. I think energy is probably the one you want to be most careful of. And that's just because when you look at year to date, what's been outperforming the most? These are usually the sectors you want to stay away from once they've had these large moves on it. So real estate, XLE, XLK to a degree, XLF, XLY, that's out of seasonal now. So that's not going to be necessarily the best index to be in or sector to be in for a little bit. XLB is still in seasonal. XLV is still in seasonal. XLI is technically still in seasonal. So they're the ones that you're going to want to focus on. And XLC is heavily down compared to where it was. So this one might be a good recovery play. So they're the types of sectors you look at. No, 2022 will be tough to make real money, very choppy to down. Yep, I agree. It's going to be more of one of those kind of like 5 to 7 or 7 to 8% years in the S&P 500 by start to end. So there will be a decent amount of volatility. It doesn't mean it's tough to make money. It's just tough to make money if you don't know and you don't trade. Like if you're just somebody that just goes buy and hold, I buy Apple and I make money or something like that, then 2022 may be a tough year for you, yes. So there's a lot going on in the crypto world right now. I understand there's quite a few what looks like scary days here. Let's put everything back in perspective. US 500 has gone up from the bottom 4,500 all the way to 4,700. It's at the tippity top. Okay, so this is where you expect resistance to be found. It's sold off on a Monday, but it's found that it's sold off straight into support. So again, look at the SPX, look at the real market. It's on the support. Now, should we breach this in the next session? Okay, cool. Then we can talk about 38.2 fibs. And I'll put a video out later talking about these gap fills and why I still don't really worry too much about these. I still think these are opportunities. Now, a lot of people are still saying, Tom, I think the market's overpriced. I think it's repricing pretty well. I mean, you've got a lot of very, very big hyper stocks that have come down considerably. I mean, they're trading at well cheaper than they have been. I mean, last week we got asked the question about a few stocks here, and even DKNG looked like it was turning around for Scott Morgan, and then look at this, up and straight back down to support. So there are some stocks that are coming back down to test the levels again that were just being reached a few weeks ago. And there's opportunities here for some pretty nice setups. I mean, imagine if we have this, got the supports, we get the turnaround, we get the double bottom in place. Would you be excited as a trader if that happened? My answer would be hell yeah. That's the type of thing that I wait for. It's very, very good. We've got Aussie Cobber 71 becoming a new member. Thank you so much, Aussie Cobber. I always see you in the comment section, so I appreciate your membership. Thank you very much. Appreciated. Gary Saini says 2022 won't be a year of GME and AMC bros. A lot of them will probably leave the market, correct? Because they will lose and get disillusioned. And this is what usually happens. And people have said, is GME and AMC finally dead? Okay, so my thoughts on GME and AMC, they will have little weird resurgences, but in general, yes, the market is, I mean, big Wall Street's winning here. I mean, look at this. This is maybe the last level of support for GME, but it's coming off massively. What happens here is just people stop holding the line. I mean, effectively, they go, oh, well, nothing's happened for a while. We're bored. We're going to move on to the next one. It's always the human psychology that ends up winning out. And this is the standard human psychology. So once it gets through here, you could see GME, it could go all the way back down to a $20. Actually, I'll ask the community, where could GME go to? Give me some price. Where's your thought process? It gets through these key supports here. I mean, obviously the next stop could be $50. And then after that, we're talking about it repricing back down to more fair fundamentals. Now, will it have some kind of resurgence in 2022? I believe it'll have one or two spikes because there will still be a community that pushes it and pumps it and tries to get it back in. But in general, yeah, the big movement's over here. Wall Street's in the game themselves. AMC, we've been talking about its decline for a while. You notice I dropped it completely from our discussion. And the reason why is it just wasn't showing the same signs. I mean, we had a couple of little trades here. We had that trade where we saw that increase over here, which was good up to the resistance, but it was trading. It wasn't looking towards, very, very high new all-time peaks. We dropped it for a reason. And that was because it was just showing signs of fatigue. So, yeah, AMC, maybe $15 from here. I mean, you might get little spurts, but that seems like the most likely. And then after that, I don't even know where the fair value is for this stock. People are calling it 30, 35, 35, $5.50 from David. I think probably... yeah, that's probably a little low, but fair enough. Less than 20, says Andy Pandy. In the teens, says Ian Douglas, and more back to where it's meant to be worth. Gary Saini, $15 or less. Do we like Twitter now? I don't know. Do we like Twitter now? Let's have a look at Twitter's close here. What price is Twitter? All right, so it's going pretty far down. Yeah, I think it's interesting about Twitter. I mean, here's a poll that you could ask yourself. Do you guys use Twitter more or less? Let's just ask the community. And really, this is less about the technical right now because it's gone down to 41. I don't like holding on to this stock. I've talked about how it's a trade. Over here, we had a nice little base formation and we liked the trade. But it's a trade, That is all. Maybe a multi-month trade, but yep. I like it if it breaches past here and then we get that lightning bolt. But at this stage, not really to me. Let's see if people use Twitter more or less. I've actually started using it less. ASM, ASM Amin, $1.99. No message, but thank you very much, ASM. Appreciate the support of the channel. Thank you. Twitter is for boomers only, says Andy Pandy. Use less Twitter, says Value Trader. I use it a lot more now, says Percy Henderson. And then someone says $0 for GME. That's from Sean. Scott Morgan says, I never used the Twitter machine. Twitter never used it. Twitter. I use more Twitter. Lately more, actually. Fair enough. Twitter will go down. Don't even use Twitter. Don't have it. Lol. People don't seem to like it too much. I think, yeah, that movement will be the key here. So after markets, we've stabilized on the US 500. We've stabilized on the US 100 to a degree. The Nasdaq has stabilized. And then US 30 is down. So, yeah, the crypto market is probably where the biggest reactions are happening. But let's just go through some more stocks because I just want to follow a few more here. So Airbnb crashed through back down. Didn't hold this level again, coming back down. Where's its previous support been? Around that 161. I'm not sure if we get there, but that's certainly where it's going at this stage. Some other companies that have done fairly poorly in the session. Just wondering whether... Okay, so TAN's actually increased a little bit here. So I'm looking for that back above this 87.64. I haven't forgotten about the solar. I liked it here. Didn't quite get the follow through, but I'm still watching it. 87.60 is one of the zones. I spoke to a few people about that yesterday. Facebook actually up on the day or up on the session. Really for Facebook, the big key zone is going to be around this 353. But it's done well in recent weeks. That actually hasn't been that bad from those lows. AMD. Now I expect this to actually weaken further. This is very marginal close underneath, but not the best sign. So see AMD, it's closing underneath here a little bit, or we'll call it close enough. Yeah. But if we get through on AMD, a lot of people, there's two ways to look at it. You breach past 146, double bottom, fantastic, move back to the peak, smiley face, trader, very good. But if you close underneath this, because of AMD's current valuation, we could move all the way back down to like a 116 fairly quickly. And that's a fairly large sell-off. So I certainly would be careful here on the AMD. A lot of questions coming in about NVIDIA. That's another one that might be slightly overpriced at the moment. Great company. We've seen the buying pressure come in once over here with the buy. It had one good day in it. Didn't even get to the resistance. And now it's back on the daily 50. Again, we breached this zone down. I mean, this is what's at stake here for a lot of the Nasdaq trades. All of a sudden, we're talking about a 230. Now, how much percentage down is that? Let's just quickly work that out. That is around a 17.57% drop. So some of these drops here, should they occur over the next day or so, these could actually smash around the Nasdaq a fair bit. You know, we're talking about fairly significant dropouts from key supports. Hasn't happened yet, but day traders will watch these zones. And of course, swing traders will be waiting for turnaround stories here so they can get back into the bull side. But very important supports here on NVIDIA. And we want to look at the left-hand side. How has it traded before? So over here, it's consolidating after a large move. We had a large move. It consolidated for a while. And if we go back to have a look at previous moves, we had a large move. We consolidated for a long period of time. So it's not unknown, kind of like a Tesla, that when it has large moves, it tends to bull, get a little crazy, and then sometimes it will actually drop off. Here's a bull move, consolidation, and then it finds weakness and comes all the way back down. So NVIDIA tends to overprice fairly quickly. I think it's because retail traders love it so much, and for valid reasons. So we're watching this very closely. NVIDIA needs to have your eyes on it throughout the day. Andrew Chris says, I'm about to give up on trading. Okay, that's interesting. Hard to stay positive on the markets. Feel like the crash is coming. That's interesting. I mean, you could say that. In PCC, probably all this usually lets you know a little bit more about crashes. That's not showing the sign of a crash at this stage. Put's still relatively high. Usually puts will be much lower for a proper correction or crash to happen. Also, you're talking about a crash. So is that your expectation of the market going down 10%? Or is it your expectation of the market going down, 30, 40%? I don't believe a 30, 40% market crash is going to happen. Now, yeah, I mean, you can be wrong, you can do a lot of things, but this is unlikely to occur due to the fact that you don't usually see a crash and then 2 years later see another crash. You may see some kind of flash correction, but you usually don't see two crashes so similar to each other so close. It's usually more like that 5-6 years apart at least for that type of thing. But yeah, I wish you best in anything you choose to do, Andrew. And it really depends on what type of trading you try to do. And if you're finding it difficult, then maybe move over to just more of the slow, kind of steady, focusing on specific sectors could help you out as well. Alpha T, $2. CNA, FTSE, upward channel from May 2020 day. Okay, let's have a look at this. So this is CNA on the FTSE, so London Stock Exchange. Upward channel, found a resistance, obviously. And the channel that he's talking about, I assume, is through these. Maybe he's got, yeah. Okay. Let's go to regular for a second here. All right. Let's go weekly. Okay, daily. Is the top end even actually channeling correctly? Let's have a look. Yep, top end channels correctly. Okay, so the top end's pretty good. Bottom's okay. Yeah, it's fair enough. Let's have a look at the 4-hour again. All right, so this was like a little consolidation inverse head and shoulders. Actually went pretty close to your distance. In fact, it probably is your distance. Now you're coming back down to a key support. So you've got previous resistances all over this, acting as support plus the bottom of your trend line. This is a zone that you'll be interested in. You'll be looking for pull-ups off this on the small time frames, maybe the 1 hour, the 15-minute, etc. It didn't do what you like too much though. So usually when you hit the bottom and you want to go back up to the top, then you come back down, then you buy it back up to the top. This is showing you some signs of weakness because really what's happening here is you've got a peak, you've got a trough, you've got a lower peak currently on the higher time frames, and then could you get a lower trough? So a breach below this will be showing serious signs of weakness. And if that breach goes through 64, it'd be really weak for this stock. So just remember that it needs to turn here or around this zone, and you are in the correct area at this stage for this particular stock. I'd green up that area. There you go. Thank you very much for the donation. Thoughts on QCOM? Yeah, so QCOM was one that we followed for quite some time. It had a whole bunch of nothingness and then jumped off that final support, went nuts. I think it's cooked. That's a good price for it. I'm not a huge fan at this price anymore. Huge gap, huge run. Let's put it in perspective. From the bottom to the top, you're looking at a 53.56% return. And the whole semiconductor space, you've got to be careful in. I mean, that's a false break to the upside and then a full movement back down. So look at that. False break, movement back down. If you're going to trade this now, you must wait for a daily close above. But I feel like it's getting a little bit, it's ready for consolidation. All that big move has happened, and now it's just going to chill for a bit. Andre says, Christmas rally is not over. People just cashing out to buy Xmas gifts. It's only one day. Only one day, It's not that bad. Only one day. It's been up. It went up 5% last week or something. We've got put things in perspective. We have to always do that with the markets. Tom, this is from Paul. I no longer fear market volatility because you stress to be optimistic. But the news of Russia, Ukraine, possible question mark thing is disturbing. Will cause major correction? Yes, that can certainly cause major correction. It's one of those black swan events where if that type of stuff comes out, and obviously we have problems there, and it does happen, then it becomes very, very, very problematic for the market. But you will unlikely see it right now. And it depends what you mean by that particular word as well, Paul. So is it going to be just between a couple of countries, or is it going to be on a worldwide scale? And I think that's the delineation. If it's between, look, it's not good. I mean, obviously I don't like it and I hate it very much. But yeah, it depends on whether it's a worldwide scale position. And if it is, well then we know we're in trouble. Yeah, that would be really bad. But if it's just between certain countries, then we've seen that plenty of times over the last 20 years. And unfortunately, it hasn't worked out well, of course, for anyone, but it doesn't tend to affect the market as much. Gary says, Tom, so for quad witching, are we expecting things to get weird this Thursday? You do generally expect them to get weird, yeah. A lot of repricement. Sometimes you get like this increased volatility in the week. I mean, obviously we're sitting on the VIX at about 20. So that's the kind of thing. Waiting for the Jerome Powell BS, says Kenny. Yeah, pretty much. Joe says, do you still like Square, Sensei Tom? Well, I haven't liked Square ever since they bought Afterpay. I pretty much ranted about it heavily over here and dumped everything. So, no, I don't really like Square's purchasing. I don't know what Jack Dorsey's doing, man. He doesn't. Is Tidal even out yet? Is Tidal even in? Do you even integrate that yet into the app? I don't even know. I haven't been really following it that much. Look, I would like it heaps if we got a double bottom off this space. Just from a technical perspective, it'd be really sweet. I mean, you've got this previous support. Now it's been as a resistance. You've got base formation here around 174. I don't think it's bad price here. But what I would do is I'd go do a little bit of extra information. I already know, and I can tell you the PS ratio is actually quite good for this stock right now. So the PS ratio is not my problem in terms of the valuation is not obscene compared to where it has been. But the question is, are they growing? Is the Cash App doing well? That's really one of the main stories here for Square. Is it continuing to get good reviews? Are people downloading it at a high rate? Do the social arb here. Go and check out the App Store. Find out whether the reviews are. You know, a lot of the best investments in the last couple of years have actually been going through and checking the reviews on the companies that you're trying to buy as an investment. And that's not even fundamentals. That's literally just going and having a look whether people are liking the products, people are hyperactive about the products, people are sharing the products. These social influencers across YouTube and across, just the app space and everything like that. This is a huge deal for whether these types of stocks actually do really well or not. Lala 69, $1. Thank you very much. Got a picture of Overwatch there. Do we still play Overwatch, Lala, after what Activision Blizzard's done to us? Do we still do that? That's thank you very much for the support. Midas touch, Tom, is Nvidia forming a head and shoulders on the 2 hour or a double bottom? I think Nvidia's just stuck in a little bit of a range, man. Midas. J Dibble says, best investment I made all year was Domino's Pizza I ate last week. Well, actually, interesting enough, Domino's Pizza. So if we look at this on the New York Stock Exchange and we think about where Domino's came from and where it's been over the years. So did you know that this was actually a very interesting experiment? So Domino's is insane. I mean, the price is, I don't know. I find it unbelievable still to this day. But when you were looking over here, this was one of the first social arb experiments. So when it started taking off, why do you think it took off? It was really sneaky what they did. Does anyone know why it took off so much? Super sneaky. Elephant in the room, BTC under 47. Yeah, we'll talk about it just in a second, though. So the reason it took off so much was because they kind of exploited children. That's how I look at it. They allowed children to basically make their own pizzas and then customize those pizzas and then share those pizzas, like as in put them in a store and share them with other people at school. So that was a huge deal for them, a huge deal, this customized pizzas thing, and then share it with other kids at school. And they would be able to make money if they sold the pizza. I mean, it was insane. I'm not sure if it happened in America. I assume it did. But that particular one strategy ended up revolutionizing Domino's, plus, of course, a whole bunch of cost cutting and things. It was a very big deal. And, of course, SBND says also Pizza Hut was put down. Yes. Finkin79 says child exploitation is tradition for them. Yeah. Jay Nibble says, well, crap, now I feel bad I didn't buy Domino's. Thanks a lot, Tom. No. Well, if you really wanted to buy one of the best stocks in the world, it would have been Monster Energy back in the day. So the old Monster Energy still probably holds close to the crown of the biggest return. So it may not look like it, but this thing started in the cents. So it was a huge deal. But I'd say Monster its crown will be dethroned now. The competition in this field is insane. Wowzers. The energy drink market, Monster, I don't know. I don't know if they can continue doing it. Let's talk about BTC. So BTC's 46.5, very disappointing, got to say, for the BTC crowd. This is not the best. So let's go down the 2 hour. Hard to even interpret exactly what the hell it's doing. And what I mean by that is, we've had rallies. We've obviously got our hardcore resistances and we know where they are, but this is not cool. Like, do we really want to be back down the 46s again? The answer is no. I mean, we've seen some little buying over here and obviously a little buying over here, but what could happen next is not cool. So are we on the precipice of another flash crash from Bitcoin? Yeah, I guess so. Most coins are down right now. Matic's down 13.15%. KSM's down 10.28%. Ethereum down 10 underneath 4K. Very big deal for it. As we suspected, Bitcoin's still stronger a little bit than Ethereum, but I mean, technically, it's not really at the zone you like. BTC to 24K expanded flat, says Dreamstorm. Well, I hope not. Crypto is getting flogged? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not really where we want it. I'm not. How do I think about this? I'm still not overly concerned. I mean, if you're a longer term investor, but a trader, it's going to be super hard. I mean, we haven't seen it act technically now for a little bit in terms of really strong technicals. I love the 8 hour the most. But think about this. I mean, we had a support. Okay, but 2 hours 30 to find out what happens with this, whether it still holds that support. But this is the 8 hour. So we had a rejection wick here. We then almost close above it. That would have been fantastic. That would have been like, thank goodness, we're back to going and testing 52. And then once we put that in, we put the bottom, you would think, in crypto for then. But yeah, look, I would say it rallies off here. I hope it comes back up, finds the support, kind of closes around a 47K would be kind of okay. That's okay. 47K, fantastic. And then we continue to form base. And what could actually happen is it might even become like a Wyckoff accumulation where we have this kind of maximum pain or a pain that comes through here. Then it comes back up, hovers, goes back up, hovers. And if we ever get through 52K, I think it's happy days for this crypto right now. So this is a very big zone of accumulation. Let's find out where this 8 hour closes, this daily closes, hopefully above 47K. What do you guys think? Do you reckon it's cooked or are you liking it? Lala 69, $5 at FX Evolution. Could you have a look at ERUS ETF? With the current panic, I think it's becoming a decent long-term buy at these levels, down around 30-ish. Okay, we'll check it out in a second. Gary says, still think BTC rips to 100K by Feb. And Finken says lots of institutions are now involved with BTC. I'd be surprised at anything below 45. Yeah, I agree, but you also bring up the biggest point here. Lots of institutions are now involved in BTC. It won't be the same as it once was. So we're going to have a lot of futures contract manipulation. You're going to have to start looking at the major futures contract expirations, which we've always checked, but you're going to need to check them very hard now. So Finken 79, I agree with you. A lot of institutions are involved in it. There's a lot of kind of stress, I guess you would say, around this fact, and we've got a lot of future synthetics in the market as well, which is a big problem. So the Bitcoin, I'm looking for it to hold around this 47K. It's already starting to reduce itself back up here. That would be nice. Getting no closure underneath this zone would be fantastic. And then hopefully a turnaround. For a smaller time trader that's going to go down to the smaller time frames, they're probably just looking for it to breach back above 48. And then that would show, I would say, on the smaller time frames, a fair bit of lightning bolt action and maybe show some strength back up to the 50K. Not all is lost. Not all hope is lost here, guys. It depends a lot on the close and how that happens. And I would say hopefully we get rally. Continue to watch it as much as possible. Let's check out Ethereum. Ethereum started weakening against Bitcoin to a degree. You'll notice it had wick, long leg doji, long leg. I mean, what is this? It's a long leg doji followed by another long leg doji followed by another long leg doji on the weekly. We haven't got a decision made. We are on the key support. We know we're on the 20 weekly. Again, this has been a zone for it to find support, so it must do so again. Even the daily is starting to, like, even underneath these previous supports here in the wicks, we need to find some rally here in the next couple of hours. So let's hope the Bitcoin rallies and that pushes all these coins back up through their key supports. KSM's kind of similar. You know, KSM's holding better than it was, but still, you know, weakening through a zone that you don't really want it to weaken through. It's finding some rallies, but it's not being able to breach that 310. Matic will be similar. Matic's back down. Let's go back to a log chart for a second here. Matic's back down on the support. Where is it? Trend line. Did it make a new peak? Yep, tested that peak. It's come back to the trend line. You could see how much is at stake. A lot of cryptos are like this. They're all sitting on supports. All right, let's do Lala's question here. This is for ERUS. iShares Russian ETF. Okay. So this one will be selling off due to the conflict stuff, I assume. Sold up pretty considerably, hasn't it? So 24% sell-off. Oh. Geez, I don't know much about this market, I've got to say. I don't even know the companies in it. Never traded in my life. 38 and 40 seem okay. Again, let's get a fib out. I'm not sure if you should even TA this. 38. Yeah, so it's in the zone. So usually when you have a full movement up, your expectations for that kind of more investment buy are between these two fibs, the 38.2 and the 50 fib. So somewhere in this zone, you look for the turnaround story. Now, an investor may just start buying the dip. They won't look for the turnaround. But in general, I like to wait for a lightning bolt, a double bottom, some kind of accumulation. But you'll notice this was a bit of a consolidation zone. So I would expect this to be where they find support in this market. Dangerous pick, though, as you would know. Thanks very much for the donation. Jay Mido says, I can't find anything decent to long. I'm surprised about that, Jay Mido. There are some decent things, but I assume you're talking about blue chip quality. Then, yeah, you'll have a bit of a problem. All right, let's have a look at gold and silver. We'll move over to that. So with the did Mr. Beefy, did FX cover the retrace on meme stocks? I did. I think they're a bit cooked, man. I mean, GME's on its last legs and AMC's underneath, so it could continue to fall further. All right, let's have a look at silver and gold. So I actually don't mind the commodities for this week. Let's just quickly bring up each one. So I'll bring up platinum first because we don't often discuss platinum. Now, platinum has an interesting little base over here on the right-hand side. If you look here, it's forming a base, and it hasn't shown any signs yet, but you can see there's little resistance too. So nice other commodity that we can be checking out. Platinum is basing. If it breaches, then we could see a nice little ramp up in that one. Let's move over to silver. Silver 0.55%. With silver, I don't like it still at this stage because it continuously stuffs around with us. So with silver, 2260 is going to be one of the key areas. Nothing changed here for silver. It has gone down and taken out people's stops. I mean, obviously, some people will have stops underneath this, but it has come down and taken out stops. So if we take a look on a weekly, you'll notice it's had those wicks, but 2260 remains. The more interesting one's probably going to be gold. So let's have a look at gold on the 2-hour. This will dictate a lot what silver does as well. And it's had some little rallies. So it went to 1791 and then failed. And we'll use a different gold because this gold sucks. There we go. That's a bit cleaner. Look at the difference. Ridiculous how bad that other gold is. So we go to the daily. Starting to show some signs of accumulation. Now, we've warned against this weakness candles a few times. This all looks very good and cool. But the problem is that it almost looks too likely to occur. So there is some accumulation happening here. Obviously, so many problems. 200, 20, 50, 1800, and the 1810 is the key zone. So nothing's changed from our perspective there. 4-hour. Again, signs of strength are coming back into it, even though it's quite minimal at this stage. So here's the key resistance around that 1792 on the small time frames. We breached that. Where's the next stop? You would think 1810. And we breached that. Of course, then we're really excited about gold. Then we're covering it every single day, hardcore on the channel, and we'll talk about it. Because 1810, I feel like it's a pretty serious zone here from the technical perspective. Look, it's consolidating. It's tough to read. I don't really like trading in these little zones of accumulation. But if you are liking it, you've got 1, 2, 3. Story is the long leg doji. Decision made. You would think resistance move to 1810. Fantastic. And then if we get past that, bam, let's go. That's what we want to do. I saw Kevin says copper doing the kind of same thing. So I just want to bring up my thoughts on copper. So I like copper during very specific times in the economic rebound or economic cycle. If you're in a crash, okay, like we were in 2020, you look towards copper for signs of recovery, okay? Copper will show you signs. They call it Dr. Copper for that reason. Now, I removed Dr. Copper from our analysis after we recovered. So we removed it around here. Now, why did we remove it around here? Because copper no longer becomes a very good trade. Around that 12 to 18 months after the crash, I don't believe it's worthwhile looking at copper anymore. You can still trap it if you want, but trading copper is a bit hectic. And if you go back and you actually had further futures, what you'll notice is that copper is very difficult to trade sometimes. It's okay on the big high time frames. You see the weakness. Obviously, you short that area and stuff like that. But I don't suggest copper for most people because I think that it's prone to a lot of false breaks. It's prone to a lot of bigger kind of trades. You can even see it here. Look at the volume coming out of this right now. The volume crescendoed, the volume comes out of it. So copper no longer, I think, is a great stabilizer force, but I still have an alert set underneath this 4. If it goes underneath 4, I'll be paying attention to the S&P 500 at that stage, and of course, seeing what's going on there. Tack Winward for $2. Great show today. Thank you. No worries, Tack. Sorry, guys, we were a little bit late to obviously open. We will generally hit that half an hour before the stock market close. I just had to do a few things, and yeah, that caused me to have to put the show about 10 minutes before. Tom, did you look at your favorite stock SPCE? Is it below or above 20 or 100? SPCE should be in the ground. Is it in the dirt yet? Let's have a look. All right, it's in the dirt. As we suspected, it's a piece of crap. And we will call it that because it is. It's crap. It's too early for space. It's too early for space. It's too early for space. Is that my mantra? I think it is. It's like the 3D printing of 2013. Cool concept, great idea, revolutionary in its field. Doesn't mean you should invest in it. AI of 2014. When everyone went crazy. Marijuana of 2016. Whatever else we're in now. We're in the space of 2020, 2021. It will be a dominating force, but you've got to make profit from it. Otherwise, the market will get angry. My ARC X, though. Let's have a look at ARC X. Space exploration in... How's that going? Doesn't look like it's going very good. 1880. Guess it could be worse. Look at it go. Bam, 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 bam. What is this? No. We don't like that one. A lot of people probably disagree with me on that. I love space, guys. I used to look at all of the constellations, the Milky Way, little telescope, looking at things. Don't worry, I love it all. But I think you've got to really put in perspective of whether the market eventually demands profit, and they won't be able to make profit just yet. Good profit. But soon, yeah. Finken 79 says 5+ years from now, they'll start to make some sense. Exactly. Yes. That's when we'll do it. Been trading this for a while. Skip this last tip. Could not be happier. Oh, you've been trading the little range. Thank God you did, hey? Samuel says, I think Rocket Lab is profitable. Couldn't really speak on it. And Jay Mitter probably brings up the great point here. Governments are really the only domain for space. Yeah, well, you've got to make your money off those contracts. That's about where you need to make it. Bitcoin 46.5 still, guys. Bitcoin still 46.5. We really want that to get back up to 47 relatively fast if we can help it. Is the market angry? No. So let's just do a quick rejig of what's going on here and talk about each one of these markets. So US 500, again, we did not close underneath the support today. Let's have a look at the little miniature support here. We'll go to the 1 hour chart so everyone can see it. Here is our ridiculous little channel that we've got now up near the top. Now, why is it doing this? Because we have our resistance zone. So we know this is a big area, all right? There's no stuffing around. It's exactly where the big area is. We know that's a problem. We've closed on our previous little supports. If we breach this zone in day trade on Tuesday, I could see us going 38.2 or even the 50 fib. After that point, of course, we look towards the bull side. All right. Let's bring up some puts from the room towards this Friday. So we have here 17th expiry. So let's bring up some SPY puts. I'm going to do that right now. Oh, what do you know? Lots of puts. Okay. So these are where our puts are. So we've got plenty of puts in the market, which will probably hold the market up. Now we've got 450 strike. We spoke about that a few weeks ago. Getting a 460 strike starting to appear. So you can see the 460 strike is starting to get a little bit higher again, which is a good sign for the bulls. You know, if that's outpacing the calls, and we have a lot of calls sitting around that 470 strike. So 475 to 480. So that's really where the calls are. So if you're thinking, in here for the end of this week's expiry, that would probably be the most likely scenario. But what we want to do is every day check what our open interest is. Are the puts increasing? So if the puts increase on the 465 and maybe even a 470, it strengthens our steal that we're probably going to stay above. Remember, it's counterintuitive with this one. So what the puts are showing us is often what the market will not end up doing. So if everyone thinks, oh, it's short, it's short, it's short, will the market go down? No, it generally goes up. So yeah, the fear is clearly here in this expiration. And we just need to see whether these start. See how there's a little bit of red here. I'll zoom it in. Need to see whether these strikes, such as this one here, start to be outpaced by puts. So does this particular strike start to have higher levels of puts coming in? At the moment, the calls are higher than the puts. The calls are barely higher than the puts. The puts are higher than the calls. So do we start to get all these strikes going up with puts? If that happens, it strengthens our resolve towards the support being found. And we've seen this many times and we've detailed it many times. And it's not the be all and end all. Obviously, the TA comes first, the stats, the data, all that type of stuff. But it's a good little extra thing if you understand it and if you're prepared to put it in the key levels. Just strengthens your resolve and your confidence. That's really about it. So the S&P 500, really nice support. I like the zone. I think it's okay. But if we breach underneath, I'm not going to cry about it. I'm just going to look at it as a potential opportunity towards some key levels. Now, Nasdaq, on the other hand, looks more sick. I mean, this is not the kind of great close that you would hope. You look at the daily and you go, is this doing very well? Not really. You've got the resistance. We've quickly come back up there. We've sold off this zone once, twice, 3 times now. And where is the key support here? That's probably what we're trying to figure out. Is it down here at 16,000? Is it the gap fill? Well, I think the S&P 500 is going to dictate this one. So even though the Nasdaq's trading its own way, it's hitting the 38.2 fib now. The Nasdaq will be dictated to by the S&P 500's chart, in my opinion. And everyone's talking about F, so let's have a look at Ford to finish up here. So Ford, oh, okay, it breached the other day out, and then it's come straight back down. Nice little channel there. I assume the breach was was it just a good day of trade or something else? So 2 hour, 1 hour, probably 15-minute. You're just looking for a little turnaround story. So maybe like little trough here, little peak we put in, little movement up, and then maybe you're feeling more confident in this trade at that stage. Probably bring it down to a 15-minute chart. There we are. Something like a 1 hour turnaround is most likely that kind of area that you want to get into, and a very common thing that you should wait for when you get a breach of a channel like this is. So there's our breach. Yes, it's closed above. The weekly will have also shown that. And if it's going to be a false breakout, well, so be it. But you're looking for that little lightning bolt. And of course, guys, if you actually get this comeback in here, let's see if anyone's got big brains. Let's see if we see this. What's that, guys? We breach underneath. Tell me that pattern while I read some comments. Finkin79 says Ford cut off their pre-orders for the F-150 EV. Demand was higher than they could produce. Question with these EVs, maybe someone knows it. If you wanted to get like a Ford 150 EV, is that so that EV can tow, yeah? Can these EVs tow actual capacity yet? Like you can tow like a giant boat and things on them and not run out of juice really quickly? And they don't have backups. Yeah, it's just pure EV. I assume it is. I don't know much about it. I'm not going to say I do. Brandon Levin says BTC hit the 1 hour high. It's little victories. Yeah, you want that 47K. Get it up $200, Brandon. Come on now. What are you doing, Brandon? Big boy Wyckoff says Gary. That's right. Yeah. It's a Sal Wyckoff distribution. Correct, Mohammed? Well done. Exactly. That would be. And that's something where you've got to be able to reverse your own idea. So let's say you thought it's long and you get trapped by the false breakout. Let's say it was a false breakout. And you take a long here, you wait for the lightning bolt, you get in and you think, yes, I'm going long. Most of the time, you're going to be right. And well done to you. You've done the right thing. But you can't then get gun shy. And if you see this, maybe not take advantage of it or not have some plan. Remember, trading is about not really having that much emotion either way on something. Now, I'm not a big suggestion of shorting stocks, but if you see Wyckoff distribution, it can be one of those one signals or two signals that you might use to say, okay, yes, we can place the shorts on this stock. Shorting stock is not easy, guys. I mean, you know this by now. Shorting stock is hard. Buying stock is easy. Buying day trading is easier than shorting day trading. It's just the reality. If you don't agree with me, you probably haven't been around the markets long enough. That being said, there are times where you can make good money shorting. And of course, you need to recognize those times, but they don't happen as often as you think. So, yeah. Cool. Thanks so much, guys. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Tomorrow, we'll start back half an hour early before the market opens. And I look forward to finding out what's going on here with the SPX and the NAS. But at this stage, SPX holding up, IWM pissing us off, US 100 showing weakness. But again, S&P 500 really is the key there. Gold, silver, slight improvements. US oil, we didn't cover that, but I will cover it in the video. Just chilling around that top. Nothing much to see here. Still like a lot of things that we're seeing out of US oil or UK oil. Doesn't really matter whether we're going Brent or not. We need that resistance to breach, and we have not had that happen yet. Thanks so much. There are opportunities in the markets. Not everything is completely overpriced. And hopefully we start to see a bit of breadth switch as well, where we start to see some other stocks moving up rather than just tech pulling its weight. Maybe now tech rotates back out and we start to get the S&P 500 showing the signs of strength. F-150 Lightning is not a hybrid. No, it's not a hybrid. Is it? I don't think it was a hybrid. I thought it was just... It's not? I don't even know what it is. I'm going to go look at this F-150 right now. Let me find out what this crap's all about. Hopefully it's sweet. All right. Ciao, everyone. Thanks so much. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. And that is also true at this stage, Earth Cruiser. Bye.